everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another house speed build in The Sims 4. Thank you very much for joining me here again today. And today we are building a modern mid-century, does that even make sense? A modern mid-century house in Oasis Springs, and this house is called Flamingo Valley, and you will see why at the very end. Spoiler alert, it's literally just because there's a flamingo in the front garden. That's pretty much it. But I was looking on Pinterest at some mid-century builds because I thought it's been a little while since I've done one of these, and so I was kind of inspired to do one, and I just decided to keep it quite small and quite basic on the outside. As you can see, there's really nothing, I don't want to say there's nothing special about it because I actually really like the way this house came out, but structurally oh dear, it's not the most interesting house to look at, and it's not the most complex house that I've ever built. It's actually really basic, but this is the first time that I've done this covered sort of outside area just on the left there, but you'll see a little bit more of that nearer the end of the video, what we do with that space. And we're doing this sort of thing where you drag the roof out, which I haven't done for quite some time, but with mid-century builds this actually works quite nicely. And this is where I realised that the house was going to be just a little bit too small, I think. And so I very shortly go off camera and I make it just slightly bigger, and then I start recording again because I had a look on the inside at one point and I thought this is going to be far too small. And so, like as I said, it's not a big build anyway. It's 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, but it's very decently sized. I think it's appropriately sized for the style and for the sort of theme that I wanted to go for. So I don't think it's too small or too big, but yeah, we just extend it out ever so slightly at the back. And I didn't record me doing the back garden because it's very rare that I do, because I don't do very much with my back gardens, and I know I keep saying it that I need to start doing more. You must be sick of hearing me say stuff like that, but it's basically just a swimming pool and some seating areas. But I did record me doing the side part, that bit on the left just there, because that ended up being quite nice, I think. And we use a lot of items from Tiny Living and Eco Lifestyle in this house, which I think they work quite nicely together. And in terms of landscaping, we didn't go too overboard. I sometimes have a tendency to go a bit mad with my landscaping just because I like things to look quite colourful. And with this one, I say we turned it back, but possibly not. It's not my most landscaped build, but it's not my most simplistic landscape build either. And now I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop. But it was quite nice actually, because with the interior of this build, which we're now working on here, so you can see that we've extended it a little bit, as I was saying. With the interior of this build, I think I went back to my roots a little bit here, and if anyone is here and has followed me on Tumblr we're going back a long time now, like years, so probably if you are watching this video, then you might not have been following me on Tumblr for that long, but I used to do houses like this all the time where they're kind of mismatched. It was like a thing on Tumblr, I think, at one point, and it was very mismatched and colourful, but the whole aesthetic worked. So that's what we've kind of gone for with this build, and it was really nice to sort of go back to that because this is how I started building, and I had a really, really good time building this house, and I think that shows in the final product. And we do make some slight changes to the kitchen, and do not worry do not worry, we move the 3rd ceiling light, which is currently stuck in the cabinet, because when I was dipping in and out I realised that was there. Don't get me wrong, it took me a long time to figure that out, but we do remove it, so don't worry. And I wanted to do like a turquoise and orange and yellow and wood sort of colour palette, and with sort of like pops of pink as well, because the house is called Flamingo Valley. And I'm currently panicking because I don't know if I've called a house that I've built previously Flamingo Valley. I'm going to have to go back through my builds and see if I've already called one Flamingo Valley. I've got a funny feeling I have. So this can be like Flamingo Valley 2.0, you know, so let's just skip past that. Now this build, just talking about the build here, and because I'm doing this area, this build is completely play tested, and I ended up moving that small table and I call them poofers, the square turquoise one from Tiny Living. I moved them forward because I had routing issues with Sims not being able to go from the living room to the kitchen, so they actually go outside and through the back door, and I moved them forwards. They've got a whole square still to go through, and I think there's a problem with routing at the moment with the game since they've introduced platforms, so it's understandable, but I think there's problems with routing because even though I moved them forward, the Sims are still going round the outside of the house and coming through the back door to go to either the bathroom or to start cooking in the kitchen. It's very strange. And then you'll see that there's very little room. I put something, when I'm doing the living room, I put something really near the door to the children's room, and they can get in and out of there fine, and there must be half the space that there is there. So there's definitely some sort of problem. So I apologise for that, but there's not really much that I can do. I think it's definitely a glitch with the game. So I'm sorry, but we'll move on from that. And with the living room here, it's a very small space, but there is a TV, there's a television above the fireplace. So yes, you know, this is like a running joke that I have with myself. No one else even comments on it, but most of my houses don't have televisions in because they're like just a last thought for some unknown reason. It is what it is. I'm not going to tell the story again, but this one does have a TV, and the layout does change slightly because, and the colour palette also changes because, as I said, I wanted to keep this turquoise and orange theme running throughout the house, and so I don't feel like at this point there was enough of that in the house. So you see me sort of changing the rugs and changing the swatches of the sofas and the chairs and all sorts of stuff, and we end up going for this rug here, which I have never even seen before. But I think when you filter by colour, you find so many different swatches of items that you probably use all the time in different colours. I think it's such an amazing filter option. So we end up going with this rug here, and we put the fireplace back up to normal size, and we shift the sofa back just because it's looking a little bit cramped at the moment. And so we're just sort of playing around with different layouts and things like that. So you'll see me here. I'm sure I delete the foundation of this house and the whole house twice in this build, and you have that moment where your stomach drops and you think, oh my god, is it gone? And then if you press undo, it comes back. But I seem to be doing that a lot. But you can see there, so there's a chair in front of that door, and it was a bit of a gamble because I thought, okay, so the Sim might not be able to get through there, but they can. So explain that. So they can get there, but they can't walk through the kitchen from the living room. It makes no sense whatsoever. But I'm going to start harping on about it because I'm sure you're sort of like sick of me having rants at this point. But yeah, we're just sort of adding some details because they're my favourite bit. Like cluttering houses up and just making them look a little bit more unique and lived in is one of my favourite things to do in this game, and that's what we're doing here. And we do end up using an end counter from the Snowy Escape stuff pack next to the fridge. So in the final screenshots at the end of the video, you will see what I mean, but I did that off camera. So I always go back through the build and just make sure that everything is how I want it to be before I do anything with it. And so that was just like a last resort sort of thing. And so again, we're just going in here and just adding some knickknacks, and because I didn't know what to do with this space really, and I think that eco lifestyle shelf really helps and I think it looks really, really nice in this house. And that front door from Tiny Living, I think it's from Tiny Living, I love it so much because it lets a lot of light in, and I think it looks really nice with this house. I think it just suits it so well. And again, as I'm gonna say, we're using a lot of items from the Tiny Living stuff pack, but I think it's been a while since I've used as many items from that pack, which is weird because it's one of my favourite stuff packs, if not my favourite stuff pack of all time. And I think it just depends on the vibe of the house that you're building, but with this one, I definitely wanted to utilise the items as much as I could, especially from Tiny Living and Eco Lifestyle. So we're just working on the bathroom here, and we are keeping things bright and airy and just keeping the theme of the house all the way through. And I really wanted to use that bed there, but there wasn't a swatch that I liked, so we ended up using this bed from Seasons, I think this one's from, and I'm not 100% happy with how this bedroom came out, but I'm just not very good at master bedrooms. Sorry, I'm just taking a sip of my drink. I'm not very good at master bedrooms, and so it's very rare that I actually like one that I've built. So this is another example of me not liking a master bedroom that I've built, but you know, I think the rest of the house kind of makes up for it because I am quite pleased with how the rest of it looks. And in the end, because I still wasn't sure about the outside of the build at this point, but I was happy enough to continue building, if that makes sense. So yeah, but we had some like little knickknacks at the end that I think really bring the build to life. And so yeah, I am really happy with it. And after this, we work on the children's room, which is a twin room. You know, this is my specialty. It tends to be just like a go-to because the bedroom's such a good size. It would be silly not to turn it into a twin room, so that's what we did. And I was initially going to give this room an ensuite, but there just wouldn't have been space, and I didn't want it to be a really tiny ensuite, so we've just kind of left that out. And so here we are, again, using beds from the Tiny Living pack because the single beds that came with that pack are so nice. So, and they have the orange and turquoise, which is kind of fitting for this build. So yeah, I thought it worked out quite well. And then I'm just sort of going back into the living room and taking items that I've used there and using them in this room as well. And then I found this amazing wallpaper swatch, and I think it's from the Moschino stuff pack, which I've never ever even thought about using before, but it had all the colours in it. It's got pink, it's got turquoise, and it's got yellow. Like, they're the colours that we've been using in this build, so I thought it would be kind of perfect if we use that in this room, just to kind of give it a little bit more personality and a little bit more character. So we're just, again, adding some stuff for the kids to do in their room. They have a laptop and a wardrobe, and children's rooms are a lot more fun to do than master bedrooms, I think. So I think that kind of shows in my builds. I think my thought really goes into the kitchen and living room, and then the kids' rooms if there is one, because I think I don't know what it is about master bedrooms. I do struggle with them and back gardens. I think I need to go on like some sort of course. Not that they exist, you know. Someone needs to teach me how to build back gardens and decorate master bedrooms. So if you could, that would be amazing. But yeah, so we're just going in here and again adding some clutter, and this is where we move onto the outside of the build and just add some extra little bits. And there's the flamingos. The flamingo goes in, and that's pretty much the item that's named this house, so Flamingo Valley. And I'm still panicking that I've already got one called Flamingo Valley, because I'm pretty sure I have. So I've now got two builds called Flamingo Valley. But this outside seating area I think came out really nicely, and that bin there, the outside bin, is actually from, I think, Get Together, and it's not a bin that I have ever considered using before, and for some reason today I thought I'm going to use that, and I didn't even know it existed. Like, it's such a cute bin, I love it. So yeah, I think this house came out really nicely, but I'm going to leave you guys here because, you know, you've heard me talking enough. But this house is available to download from the gallery if you would like to check it out. My origin ID is RachelPedd. The tray files are linked down in the description below, and they're available to download from Sim File Share. But thank you very much for joining me here today. Screenshots are at the end of the build if you'd like to see what the house looks like in game. But thanks again for joining me here today, and I'll see you next time. Bye everyone.